What is going on, Pats Nation? It's your boy Colby, also known as Patriots Global, back here with another one. We just finished going live on Bleacher Report. Before that, as we always do, we were live for a live watch party for the New England Patriots Week 4 matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. The game for me that when the schedule came out, I looked at it and I said, oh, quick glance, circle. That is the hardest one on the schedule. So, yes, Patriots lose. As we all know, they end up falling short 13-30. So it really wasn't even a close game. But again, realistically, this shouldn't be a surprise with the current situation that the Patriots are in, and understanding the fact that, again, despite kind of some of their struggles and their injury problems, the 49ers are still one of the best teams in the NFL and arguably the best team on paper in the entire NFL. Patriots really never had a chance at winning this game. As always, I am joined by my boy Rob from House Call. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later how you can get an exclusive limited time offer from today's sponsor over at BetUS. You can get a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125 on your next two, all the way up to $2,000. But again, we'll talk to you about that later. Rob, buddy, how you doing?
It's just ongoing train wreck. I try, but I tell you what though, I try to grab little glimmers of hope every week, something to hang my hat on, because we knew this was a rebuild, man, and Patriots fans are just being way too negative. Just find something to hang your hat on every week.
Yeah, so I mean, like, really, before we even get into like the actual analysis, the actual breakdown of this, I feel like we need to just have a talk real quick with Pats Nation and just reiterate one fact. And that's the fact of, let's just understand where this team is. I mean, if people want to come in and they want to troll us for getting blown out by the Niners, that's perfectly fine. Like, I don't care, but I feel like it's more of an indictment on the people that are clowning the Patriots, because if you're a Patriots fan, you understand where you are. You understand that this is 4 weeks into a complete new rebuild with a new head coach, new quarterbacks, new offensive coordinators, new defensive coordinators, completely new side of the coaching on the offensive side of the ball. So you're not going to be good in those situations. Bill Belichick left this New England Patriots team with one of the worst rosters in the NFL, if not the worst roster in the entire NFL, which is why he's not here. That's why he doesn't have a job. Great from the X's and O's standpoint, but Belichick believed that you didn't necessarily need good players. He believed that he could coach them up by himself, no matter if they had the talent or not. And that's why the Patriots are where they are. That's why they were where they were last year, was because they just don't have talent. And look at the good teams. Look at the Chiefs. Look at the 49ers. Look at these top tier teams that have actual talent. You need talent to win football games. And when you have, again, the least amount of talent in the NFL, rebuilds take time. Rob, what do you think?
What have we said since week 1? Every time we've come on here, it's a rebuild. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's what makes you treasure all those little moments we had with Brady in those days that we were on a dominant run. It just shows you how much of an anomaly that is. We're now a regular team trying to do what regular teams do, which is build a roster from the ground up. The problem is, I've had people in my life before that were talking about, well, we've been rebuilding since the Cam Newton era. Well, I love Belichick as a head coach, but he kind of left the cupboard bare, and we're having to rebuild from scratch. It is year 1. It is year 1 now with a new rebuild, new front office, all those things. So that's why I'm not just hammering it home that, like, oh, fire this guy, fire that guy. This guy sucks. That guy sucks. No, like, let's just be patient about this year.
Yeah. And it's a tough situation because, of course, you don't want to see your team lose, and that's a difficult situation to be in.
It sucks.
At the end of the day, when you are dominant for 20 years, at some point things catch up to you, okay? It's not realistic to be that dominant forever. It's just not going to happen. At some point, the Patriots have to go through what other teams have, and right now that's just what they're going through. When you make transitions, you're going to go through a rough time, and that's just what the Patriots are doing right now. We understood that this game wasn't one that the Patriots were realistically going to win, and they didn't. That's why me, Rob, although of course we want to see the Patriots win, we're not going to
every week, man. Like, I do those hype ups, man, like, just to keep Pats Nation positive, because it doesn't do us any good to be negative every week.
Yeah, I mean, again, we knew that the Patriots weren't realistically going to win this game. That's why we're not upset. That's why we're not hating right now. There's a lot of annoying things we're going to get into, some good, a lot bad. But again, we understood that they were going to lose this game, so it's not like it is a surprise. I think if you thought the Patriots were going to win this game by any stretch of the imagination, then you probably were lying to yourself a little bit.
I made the video. I don't know if you saw the hype one. I was like 15-14 Patriots win, and then underneath it says, "I hope."
I hope. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Hope is all we had, dude. Hope is all we had.
That's really just all we have is hope.
Well, here's the thing too, right? Like the Patriots are facing one of the most healthy 49ers teams we've seen all season. Now it's 4 weeks, right? So like that doesn't say a lot per se, but like, last week when they lost, really, first off, they beat themselves. They were out a lot of pieces. Week 2, they were out some pieces. This week, they didn't give the Patriots any favors, literally in the slightest. They get George Kittle back fully healthy. They get Deebo Samuel back fully healthy, and they start using him immediately. Trent Williams end up playing in this game. Like the Patriots got zero help in this game. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey wasn't here, but Christian McCaffrey hasn't played all season long, so that's really not much of a surprise. And Mason has been dominating in the run game anyway.
Hey, Jordan Mason's no slouch. That kid's averaging over 100 yards a game, so.
But yeah, dude, sorry, I was reading a comment. But yeah, so, and the thing too is like, you look at it, the deficit that the Patriots took here is actually very similar. It's actually very similar to what the Jets faced with their deficit week 1. Now, the Patriots was slightly worse, but it was actually very, very similar overall in terms of the point differential, which I thought was a really interesting point when I actually looked back on that.
Yeah, but it's seismic. It's seismic in terms of like the talent that they have comparative to what we have. Like they have a legit receiver in Garrett Wilson. It's no slouch that Jalen Polk, which by the way made a hell of a catch that was a no catch.
Great
game. But like this is just like the talent level that they have on offense comparative to what we have. It's not close.
And real quick, I do want to give a shout out to my boy Aaron in the chat because we have an anomaly. We have a realistic, actual like down-to-earth Jets fan in the chat and says, you guys got a shot at beating the Jets in week 8. We'll see, man. And I'm glad that you're one of those realistic Jets fans. Jets got
any given Sunday, but
today.
Any given,
but, like you said, any given Sunday. That's why.
At least he's unlike those other Jets fans which by the way, I wish they were here right now because Bo Nix put up 60 yards on them and they won.
Which is absurd. He didn't have to do anything and they still won. But again,
literally just was a can all day.
Shout out to Aaron real quick for just being a realistic and actual good Jets fan. I feel like there's not a whole lot of those in these days, but you're definitely one of them. Let's just start breaking down this game, though. And what I want to start with is the quarterback position here for the Patriots, and we'll kind of just go position by position here. Jacoby Brissett in this game finished in 19 for 32, 168 yards. He averaged 8.8 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, terrible interception, sacked 6 times, and a rating of 70.8 on the ground. He had 2 attempts for 3 yards, 1.5 yards on average, but he lost 3 fumbles. Rob, I'll kick this to you first. What did you think about Brissett on the day?
Look, man, I've been trying to defend this guy. There was plenty of opportunities to get the ball to the wide receivers. I think he held the ball entirely too long. And I thought before, there was like first upcoming weeks where I was like, oh, he's holding it because wide receivers are not getting open. No, as every week progressed on and on and on, the wide receivers are getting open. Now, AVP could scheme up a little bit shorter yardage plays, but I mean, that Fred Warner interception that made me almost have an aneurysm because, like, I don't know where he was throwing it to because you have, I think it was Polk and Demario Douglas who were basically wide open. I don't know.
The way that I see it is, well, first off, I'll talk about that interception. That interception, I don't know what he was thinking, what he was going through. He had time. I know that he was trying to get to Tyquan Thornton, who was open right there in the middle of the field. And one of 2 things happened. One, he didn't see Fred Warner, which I'm not sure how you don't, but one of which maybe he just didn't. We can't see it through the lens of the actual football player. So, we're just kind of trying to figure out what the heck happened here. Second is, actually wrote this down somewhere. I don't remember where the heck I put it. But second is he just tried to fit it over Fred Warner. He saw Fred Warner and just didn't throw the ball properly to get it over because that ball Fred Warner didn't do anything crazy. Fred Warner didn't make some athletic play. Like, no, that ball went right towards this man's face, directly towards him. So I'm not sure what Jacoby Brissett was thinking. Obviously, that ends up being a pick six. Niners get into the end zone. They go up a touchdown. I mean, it was what? 6-0 at that point. I mean, they were up 2 field goals. That game was still in reach at the time for the Patriots. But Rob, that's a momentum switcher. And that's what people don't understand is that any chance the Patriots had, any momentum that they had, it immediately was taken out. And that momentum was given to the 49ers players once you throw a pick six like that. And I think we saw that against the Jets, that when you deflate yourself, you have no chance at winning games.
I mean, brother, like you can't have 2 consecutive drives where you have turnovers. You have Ramondre Stevenson fumble the football, and then you have the very next play or the very next drive, Brissett throws an interception, pick six. You can't have that. It's back-breaking plays, and then this team is not built to play from behind. It's not. They can sustain. Maybe they can sustain a lead, but they're not a team that can play from behind. They do not have the talent. I think we're talented. I just don't think we're talented enough when you compare it to the 49ers.
Well, yeah, the Patriots' margin for error is so thin, especially offensively, to the point where you can't have 1 turnover. The Patriots had, what, 5 turnovers? 4 or 5 turnovers in this game? And they were never going to win because of it. The fact that this game was as close as it was, despite having 5 turnovers offensively, is absolutely mind-boggling to me. Because, again, you don't have the quarterback right now. You are not in a situation where your offense can throw an interception, where they can turn the ball over and you can come back from it. That margin for error is so small that they have to play a perfect game. They can't miss wide open receivers because of how lackluster this offense is, because of how bad that this offensive line is. I thought that this was the worst game we've seen from Jacoby Brissett. What I will say, and I'll give him his flowers, the first 3 weeks, I didn't think it was up to him. I said this several times. It was on the offensive line. I still stand by that. And he was able to do things that we never saw. He was trying to play superhero football, and I thought that he was doing it for the most part. Now, he wasn't excelling the offense past its limitations, but I think to a degree, through 3 weeks, he was excelling the offensive line past its limitations, doing things that Brissett never does, going out wide, extending plays, throwing on the run, things like that. They made the offensive line even look a little bit better than in reality it was. But in this game, he comes in, and again, he takes 6 sacks. He throws a terrible interception. He has 3 fumbles that he ended up losing. Not just 3 fumbles, but he lost 3 fumbles. There was at one point, final drive late in the game in the 4th quarter. Patriots are just outside about the 10-yard line, knocking on the door to get into the end zone. If they get in the end zone, no, it wouldn't matter. But why you want to get into the end zone there is, well, 1, you obviously shrink what the deficit looks like, but 2, the Patriots are going to in-division rival next week. And it's going to be a short week for Miami. Miami plays next week, and then they have to get on the road and play New England. It's also going to be without Tua. You want momentum. And going into that game, you want to have momentum. And that's what they could have done by getting into the end zone there, is start building a little bit more momentum to hopefully get back on track if you're able to beat the Miami Dolphins at home next week. But just that inability, he sees it. It's 3rd down. He has the opportunity to just, not the 3rd or 4th down, but he goes for it. He rushes. It looks like he's going to pick up the first. 2 defenders start closing in on him, and he just stands there. And I know he's slow, but instead of trying to make a play, being a couple yards out, instead of trying to get to the first down and run for it, he just stops at the line of scrimmage and tries to make a pass. And
I think what he suffers with Colby. I almost called you Jacoby, Colby, because I've literally been like, he's in my head at this point. I don't think he knows how to put the ball out there before the play develops. I think he waits for the play to develop, and by the time it develops, they're already in the backfield, and it doesn't work. You need to be able to anticipate where that receiver is going to go, obviously, and get the ball out quicker. Look, man, we saw it all. I think I saw it a couple of times during this game where he had time in the pocket, and there were receivers that were open.
Shout out real quick to JD DeGreat from the AFC East Roundtable coming in, says, still fins up, Colby. Still fins up. Hey, man, it's going to be interesting to see what y'all do with Tyler Huntley at quarterback tomorrow. Let's see what he does, because if he can go out there and look like Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley, then maybe
they got the Titans, right?
They have the Titans tomorrow, and then they play the Patriots at Gillette Stadium next Sunday at 1. and Tua's out that game. So they're starting Tyler Huntley. So it looks like
Interesting.
Tyler Huntley could be starting against the Patriots too, as long as he doesn't completely crap the bag. So we'll see, JD. We'll see. But
Put a Pro Bowl on his name. Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley.
Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley. Pro Bowl. TD would be proud of me, bro. TD would be proud of me.
You already know what he's gonna run with that. That one Pro Bowl that he was like a 17th option.
Just like when Mac Jones did. But look.
Hey, but I will say though, man, after the first 2 drives and basically us not really doing much and holding them to 2 field goals after 1 quarter, I mean, they had every chance to kind of like, after the Mondre fumble, could have put up 10. They could have been a 10-0 lead. Instead, it was a 6. So there are little things to kind of be hang our hat on this game. It's just accumulation of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, rough game from Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, he's going up against a really good defense. He's going up against Bosa. He's going up against Fred Warner. Fred Warner's the best linebacker in the NFL. He's been the highest graded linebacker in the NFL in every stretch of the imagination for several years now. It's hard to go up against these players, but again, that's when plays are there. You have to make them against a team like this, and Jacoby just didn't do it. There were some questionable decisions, some questionable throws, and like I said, I've been a Jacoby Brissett supporter, and it's not that I'm not anymore, but I'm going to call it like I see it, and this is definitely the roughest game that we've seen from Jacoby so far as a New England Patriot, well, at least for the 2024 season, and that's why we're going to start seeing these comments start rolling in. We're going to see a lot of people talking now that Jacoby Brissett, forced 4 total turnovers for the Patriots in this game. People are going to come in and say, well, if he's not even taking care of the football like he needs to, why don't you throw Drake Maye out there? And
what did we say? What did we say? I think I even said it. I was like, the moment he starts turning over the football, literally it's on record, we're going to be more critical of him. And he's starting to turn over the football. Hopefully it's just a 1-game thing because, I mean, the San Francisco 49ers, the San Francisco 49ers. I don't envision the Dolphins doing the same thing that the 49ers did to us this week.
Yeah, I mean, he has the second best interception percentage of all time, only behind Aaron Rodgers. So he's not 1-2 turn over the ball. For some reason in this game, it got the best of him. And this is yet another game. This is not even 4 games in a row. I would say 5 games in a row because of the preseason where we see Jacoby Brissett take a hit. He goes down and he's just in pain. He's like not getting up. He's just hunched over. And at some point, it's going to get to him sooner rather than later. Now, before we move on to the rest of the team, Rob, I do want to get your opinion just on this whole Drake Maye situation. And not just that, but like, did you want to see Drake Maye in this game? Obviously the Patriots, they weren't going to win this game. Do you wish they gave him a drive at the end like they did last week, or give him a quarter, or are you okay with them not playing him at all?
I battle this every week, man. I want to win so bad. And I know this game was kind of out of reach, but I don't know if I would have thrown him to the Wolves that are the 49ers. However, I would throw him in against the Miami Dolphins. That's where I would throw him in. But we've already heard, as Ian Rappaport has stated, that basically they're not in. I'm not going to misquote this, but like basically they're not that far along into the process, the ramp up process enough to put him out there. So, and he doesn't envision that he's going to be starting anytime soon. So I think I respect Ian Rappaport enough as an analyst, as a reporter, as where he is in the NFL landscape to know that if he says something, it's probably what it is.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. At the end of the day, why do you want to start Drake Maye right now? At the end of the day, he is a prize box, right? Now, you either could have something with like Jacoby Brissett, who, let's say Jacoby Brissett is like it's like a 2019 Mazda, right? Let's say it's not bad. It's doable. It's not sexy, but it's doable.
Okay,
and let's say Drake Maye is this prize box, right? And he could be a 1990 car that is run down and, has rust everywhere, or he could be a Lamborghini. You don't know what he's going to be. He could be better. He could be worse. But once you open up that box, you have opened up that box and there's nothing that you can do about it. And I think that's why Patriots fans want Drake Maye, right? It's that unknown. It's the 3rd overall pick. And I was talking to a guy about this, during the live watch party here. he was like, the offensive line doesn't matter. You know, he's your third overall pick. Like, he's supposed to go out there and make it look better. And it's just like, he's a third overall pick, yes. But just because he's a third overall pick, that doesn't indicate that he needs to be thrown out there, that he's immediately going to make everything look better. Him being the third overall pick is based off of his talent alone. He has all the talents, if you develop him correctly and do right by him, to easily be a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League, but it starts with doing right by him. The quarterback position is very different than drafting the rest of the positions.
Like, I will say the offense will be significantly better, but maybe at the detriment at unraveling all the things that AVP has worked on with him. Maybe he may revert to his old ways of throwing how he throws, or he may panic. You never know what it may do. You don't want to undo all the hard work that AVP's put in on him.
And real quick too, Aaron comes in and says, yeah, as much as Colby's stats frustrate me, he tells the truth. Aaron, listen, all these Jets fans got mad at me for the stats last week. Those stats proved themselves in this game. They didn't prove themselves against the Patriots. You were the anomaly. But in 3 out of 4 weeks, the stats that I brought up previewing the Jets game have been exactly correct and have shown your strengths and weaknesses as a team. Everybody told me I was wrong this week. They popped up again for you here in week 4. So, hey, look, I don't want to take a victory lap, but clearly stats do matter because they have shown exactly what I said about the Jets. But yeah, when it comes to Drake Maye, I say this all the time. I need to put it on a shirt, but it's about the next 10 years. It's not about the next 10 months. Even if you put in Drake Maye right now, you're not going to the playoffs. You're not a Super Bowl contender. So why rush the process when you're in a position where you don't need to rush the process? You're in a position where you can take your time and you can be safe rather than sorry when it comes to Drake Maye, right? There's no reason to force him out there. And even if he's 100% ready and you want to be cautious and sit him extra time, you can. He's only 21 years old. By the time he starts in 2025, he's only going to be 22. He's still going to be one of the youngest quarterbacks in the National Football League. And everybody comparing him to Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is 24 years old. He is an old quarterback. He has so much more time in college to start and develop his football IQ. When it was the draft process, before either of our teams drafted quarterbacks, we said, Drake Maye's the type of quarterback you have to sit for, we don't know what period of time per se, but at least a period of time you will need to sit him. As well with Jaden Daniels, you draft him, he can immediately be your quarterback 1, and that's what we are seeing. You're trying to compare apples to oranges between Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye. They're very, very different situations. You're in a position where you don't need to throw Drake Maye out there. You don't need to have his confidence shook, his internal clock shook. You can do right by him and make sure that everything is perfect. Now, I don't believe in the whole wait to put him in until the situation's perfect. I don't believe in that. But to me, Rob, when am I starting Drake Maye? I'm starting Drake Maye. This isn't difficult. When you have a consistent offensive line. And here's the thing. I'm not saying, Rob, I'm not saying it needs to be like middle of the pack, best in the league, anything like that. All I want, 25th. Be the 25th, 26th best offensive line in the NFL and not historically bad.
Or have a left tackle that's not 4 consecutive weeks of a different left tackle. That would be one thing. But if I have to speak from the minds of these Patriots fans, I think what it is, if I have to, because I also have that, I share some of that view, but I also am fine with him sitting on the bench. I think what it is Patriots fans want to put out enough tape because we're already dealing with that tax, the Boston tax that Belichick laments to, that basically getting free agents to come here in the first place is he calls it Taxachusetts. If we put out tape out there and we show what this kid's capable of, then more free agents will flock to come here. I think that's what Patriots fans are afraid of, that we bench him for a prolonged period of time to where we don't put enough tape out there to where we have opportunities to maybe get a T. Higgins, to maybe get this guy, that may be a star or a stud as a free agent player, whoever be wide receiver, whatever position it may be. And because we keep him on the sideline for so long, and because there's such a this what if and not really a developed mindset of what this kid is, or an outlook of what this kid is, that's what it is. If I had to probably play it from that point of view.
The thing, though, is that, okay, if you put him out there and he looks good, that helps. But if you put him out there and there's tape to where he sucks, that goes against you. At least what you can say right now is we have Drake Maye. We have the 3rd overall pick. He's doing good. Maybe show him some film from highlights of training camp and whatnot and be like, this is the potential. But yeah, you don't know what you have yet. I rather say you don't know what you have yet than to go out and show a wide receiver, hey, sign with us, even though he looked like absolute crap in a few games that he played last season, right? Like, it kind of goes both ways. And the thing, too, is that, again, how is it going to hurt the Patriots to sit Drake Maye? If the Patriots, even if they sat, and I don't want him to, but even if he sat for the entire rest of this season, how does that hurt him? Versus if you put him out there and he's not ready, you mess up his confidence, you mess up his internal clock, all things that happen with Mac Jones, or even worse, you potentially get him injured. And if he gets injured, you can't develop him in any way, shape, or form because he's sitting there only taking mental reps. So, again.
And man, look, if forget our opinion, forget your opinion, forget my opinion, forget anybody else's opinion. Tom Brady came out and said what he thinks what the Patriots are doing is right. And he talked about what him sitting and what that meant to his career. Learning behind Drew Bledsoe. Is Jacoby Brissett a Drew Bledsoe? No. But sitting and just learning and you can learn from someone else's mistakes. As leaders in society, we learn by watching. Just because someone is a bad leader doesn't mean you can't turn into you're going to be a bad leader yourself. It just means, okay, I see what Jacoby Brissett is doing, because there are some things that Jacoby Brissett does that he can teach to a Drake Maye. We already seen that Brian Hoyer may not be the greatest quarterback, but the mind that he has and the intelligence he has and what he was able to provide to Brady's career, even as a backup, is incredible. So I think honestly, I'm just, whatever this coaching staff decides, I'm for it. I don't care. Look, AVP, wherever he's gone, everything's turned to gold. So let's just kind of wait out the process and see what happens.
And here's what I'll say, because even Oscar comes and he says we learned from the Mac experience, and we did, because look, was Mac ever as physically gifted as Drake Maye? No. I mean, the 3rd overall pick.
No, but he was more pro ready. He had all the little details, like the footwork and all that stuff. He just lacked in the physical talent, and I think what Maye also has is the ability to overcome adversity, like he did at North Carolina.
What I'll say, too, is even this comment saying, Mac was never good. That's the difference between these two quarterbacks. Throw Drake out there. He's different because he's a good quarterback. That's very subjective. And the thing, too, is that Mac Jones was good. Like, why are we just pretending Mac Jones was never good? Like, why are we pretending there was never a future there? If he looked as bad as he did throughout his entire career with the Patriots, like he did in 2023, he wouldn't have lasted that long. He set Patriots franchise records his rookie year. He set NFL records his rookie year, being rookie of the month several different times. I mean, like I said, just setting several different records, going to a Pro Bowl, NFL top 100, voted on by the players themselves. Like, he was just outside of the top 10 ranked that year in his rookie year. Like, there was a lot of positivity going that direction. It's what Belichick and the coaching staff did after his rookie year that screwed him up. They screwed up his confidence. They screwed up his internal clock. Now, obviously, Mac Jones did a lot of things on himself, too. We're not going to say that. But the Patriots are what screwed up Mac Jones. The offensive line, the lack of weapons, all of these things over a course of multiple seasons, that got to him and it messed with his mental side of things. And once you mess with the quarterback's mental side, they're screwed up. And it's very, very, very hard to bring a quarterback back from the dead.
And we see this every year. You don't just throw quarterbacks out there just because you want to get your itch touched. But I just a comment I saw on the side. I never said AVP was a bad coordinator. I said he could have schemed up things better today. I didn't say he was. That's not what I said. If you're going to quote me in the chat, please quote me correctly. Thank you.
But let's move forward and hold on, let me get to my stats here. Okay, let's move forward and let's get on to this game. Get back to this game and talk about the running backs here. Ramondre Stevenson still was their lead back, but I don't even know what they do in this situation. It's really difficult. He wanted to be the bell cow running back. He said this himself this offseason. He becomes the bell cow running back. He gets a massive extension, and he comes in 4 games. The first 4 games with 4 fumbles, 1 in each game. He's now lost 2 out of those 4 fumbles, 2 in back-to-back weeks. I don't know how they keep him this lead back still, because there needs to be a level of discipline, but he is still their best player. He's their biggest difference maker. 13 attempts, 43 yards, 3.3 yards on average, so not even good in this game. Longest run was 13 yards and 1 fumble lost. Rob, what do they do here with Ramondre?
I don't know, man. Like, it's 4 consecutive games of him fumbling. I actually think Antonio Gibson's been pretty good up until this point. He's how many? This is like the second time he's ripped off a 40-yard gain. Look, I don't know. Like, it's 4 consecutive games. Now it's a trend, and it's going to be all over Boston media, and it's unfortunate because I don't want that to get in his mind, because he is a really good player. He's a really, really good running back. I've said in the past, I think he's a top 10 running back. I just think that, man, this is not just this year. You've had this in the past too. You need to stop fumbling the football. Especially in situations where, like, we get the ball back, like in the first quarter, we hold them to a field goal. The very next drive, Mondre fumbles the football, and then they score another field goal. Luckily, they only score a field goal. So, man, he may have to just sit in as a RB2 for now and just let him get touches here and there. But I don't want to damage his confidence, because it's already enough that he has that in his mind that he's fumbled it four games in a row. I think just maybe demote him to running back too.
It's just like, there's starting bell cow running backs in the NFL that don't fumble even one time in a season, and he's fumbled in every single game so far. And Michaela, I see you in the chat. Much love to you for being a longtime supporter, but you're comparing apples to oranges here, buddy. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Please, thank you.
You're comparing apples to oranges, because when we said last year DeMario Douglas being benched in his second game of his NFL career and he fumbled one time after being a star producer, that's very, very different from you getting big contract and you fumbled in every single game so far in the season, being a bell cow running back, and you've lost 2 of those fumbles. There's a big difference between one fumble as a rookie and then fumbling every single game so far in the season.
And when he versed the Bengals in the situation where the game was in a critical situation and he fumbles that game, we could have won that game too. Like, man. But we're not saying, oh, listen, go get rid of Ramondre Stevenson. It's just that, like, maybe he needs to just get some mental reps, man. Maybe there's something going on. Maybe he needs to, I don't know. Go have a camp with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. I don't know.
No,
remember him?
Listen, it is stupid. It is stupid, and I stand by this. This is apples and oranges. You're trying to compare 2 very different things. When you decide to bench a player for half the season, sometimes even the entire season. Even remember when LeGarrette Blount fumbled in the Super Bowl, and he was the best running back one of the best running backs in the NFL that year, and Belichick benched him for the rest of the Super Bowl. Fumbling one time. Fumbling happens from time to time, okay? Mm-hmm. If it's one fumble, I don't think that you should be in the doghouse. Sometimes defensive players make plays. Sometimes things happen. Now, after it's that one fumble, it becomes tendencies. When you're fumbling 4 games in a row and you've lost 2 of them, and now you're a liability. Every single game you're in, you're fumbling. It doesn't matter the defense. It doesn't matter the situation. It comes down to you as a player. That is where discipline needs to happen. There's a difference between one fumble being benched for the rest of the year versus 4 fumbles. And okay, not even saying he needs to be benched for the entire year, but do you bench him for a game? Do you make him your second back, like you said? We don't know what the discipline is. But Ramondre Stevenson has a problem. Ramondre Stevenson is a liability, and maybe it doesn't bite them in the butt right now, but at some point this season, it's going to. And at some point when they start contending, the last thing you want is for Ramondre Stevenson to fumble a game away like he did in Cincinnati in 2022 when you're on the goal line about to win the game and he fumbles and you lose because of it. That's the difference. There is a very, very, very big difference. But let's talk about the rest of these running backs here, though, because Ramondre Stevenson, after that fumble, wasn't put in the doghouse. He still got opportunities later, but he wasn't the bell cow running back in this game after that. JaMychal Hasty, we saw him get some opportunities in this game, which we really hadn't gotten to see too much other than the garbage time snaps last week against the Jets. Antonio Gibson got a lot of opportunities in this game, too. I like what I saw from JaMychal Hasty. I mean, 3 attempts, 15 yards, 5 yards on average. Do I want him to be a bell cow? No, but as a change of pace guy, That guy's elusive. That guy's got some speed to him. Like, that guy could come in and be like
How
your
many
new Rex Burkhead.
how many times did you hear the announcer say Ramondre
Ramondre.
Stevenson instead of Hasty?
They
It's
look
like, bro,
very
it's on
similar.
is because he has dreads. It's the nameplate's right there. Yeah, man. I don't think you should bench him. I don't. It because I just love I love him too much, man. I think he just when he touches the football, he makes big moves. I just think maybe a diminished role might get his head right. Maybe he needs to work on the fundamentals a little bit more because I notice every time he's tackled, he doesn't immediately go to protect the football. He just kind of falls down. And maybe that just needs to be drilled into his head.
It just doesn't make sense because Ramondre just takes some of the hardest hits you'll see, and he hangs onto the ball, and then he'll be tapped on the shoulder and he'll fumble the ball. Like, it just doesn't make sense, his fumbles versus his non-fumbles. And I think that's the question. I don't think that they can afford to bench him. So I don't think they will bench him. But again, maybe they take some of those snaps away. Maybe they say, you're going to be running back 2. You're going to be the guy that gets 8 carries, and Gibson's going to get 20 carries next week instead, until you can prove that you can be a bell cow. You want to be a bell cow, we gave you the opportunity, but until you show that you deserve to be it, we're not going to continue to give you the rock the way that we've been, giving you 20-plus carries per game. But like JaMycal Hasty, I like to see him a little bit more a part of the equation moving forward, just from time to time, nothing crazy, maybe just 3-4 carries a game, something like that. And Antonio Gibson with another really good game, not necessarily on the ground. On the ground, 6 attempts, 12 yards, 2 yards per carry. Longest run was 5 yards, but I think when he's on the field...
Is Kevin Harris still on the practice squad?
On the practice squad, yeah.
Elevate him. Elevate him.
I mean, yeah, that's another way. If you want to give Ramondre some discipline.
I said this. I think I said this after the second fumble. What did I say it after the second fumble? I can't remember. I said we needed to elevate him, and that was because of Antonio Gibson. But the point still stands. He needs to be elevated.
But, I mean, Antonio Gibson, to me, he's somebody who makes the Patriots offense not as one-dimensional as somebody like Ramondre does. And the reason that Ramondre gets the production still is because he's just a really good running back. But with Antonio Gibson, this is a former wide receiver converted to running back, and we saw that in this game. Rob, how many times have I been saying they need to use Antonio Gibson more in the passing game? He has the hands, he has the elusiveness, he has the speed, he has that track speed to get downfield quick, and that's what we saw. I mean, he didn't do too much in the running attack, but in the receiving attack, he led the Patriots in receiving yards today. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 67 total yards, 22.3 yards on average, and a long run of 50 yards. This is what I want to see. Now, I still want to see them be a little bit more creative with it. I still want to see Antonio Gibson utilized in the backfield. I want to see him utilized as slot. I want to see him out wide. I want to see them do things with Gibson that they did with James White. He might not be as dominant when it comes to that, but I do think that he can still be the best receiving back that we've had since James White. He can be a guy that you target down the field, that you give a go route to, and at least has the potential to go up and actually make a play. I think that this was another really good game for Antonio Gibson, who's definitely starting to pick up speed with the Patriots a little bit. But Jalen Polk, to me, I mean, probably his best game so far as a New England Patriot. The stats don't necessarily show it, but if you watch the game, you would know that the stats are a little askewed. 7 targets. He was the most targeted Patriots player today. 3 receptions, 30 yards, 10 yards on average with the longest catch of 21 yards. Rob, what were your thoughts on Polk?
I mean, you saw the non-catch on this. Like, this kid has the potential to be very good. Yeah, man, I thought he played pretty solid. I just think that we can't get him the ball enough, and because the damn defense is in our face right away. But I love the kid. I really do. He just, one thing I don't know if you noticed, he kind of hanged his head quite a bit towards the end of the game. And it kind of, I'm like, I don't know what's going on over there. Maybe he's being a little hard on himself, but he did draw a pass interference. He kept the drive alive. I can't remember who the defender, I think in number 2, I forget his last name, but he kept the drive alive. Why was he hanging his head? I think he was doing his thing for the most part.
So the way that I see it with Polk, I think he had a really good game. I think he's been very reliable. He did have one bad play. I believe it was on 3rd down, and Jacoby Brissett has time, gets to Jalen Polk in the middle of the field, and a short-handed guy goes right through his hands. Should have had it, easy catch, and it goes right through him to a defender, intercepted, and then I don't know if God just ripped out the ball or something. but bro, like
He didn't
bobbled it
clear
and it ended up not being an interception, but realistically should have been. And that would have been completely on Jalen Polk for just allowing it to go straight through his hands. So that was the only bad play, but he also had a really, really good play down the field, which ended up not being talked about because it was considered out of bounds. Supposedly it wasn't. I was looking at this on social media and everybody's saying that it wasn't, and they're showing pictures on why it wasn't. I'm
Do
not
you
going to
think
be
it
the
was?
one. Honestly, I got to look back at the play a little bit more and see.
It
I didn't
wasn't,
see it
man.
enough. It wasn't.
It
It
wasn't.
wasn't in bounds, or it wasn't out of bounds.
I just don't think he had like. So supposedly the ball kind of bobbled a little bit, but also like he didn't have that. I think it was his. It might have been his right foot never grazed, unless they're counting the foot and then his knee. But I don't know. It's a tricky situation. What was it? Pereira and Mike Pereira, and I kind of trust Mike Pereira's judgment. He said it wasn't a catch.
Yeah, I'd have to look back honestly and analyze that a little more. I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, but nonetheless, to me, it's not necessarily about was he inbounds or not. It's the fact that he made the catch, right? He did the hardest part first. Now he just has to stay in bounds. Now they have to give him more of these opportunities, maybe just a little bit not as close.
I don't know how you could make a better catch than that, man. That was incredible. That was something that we wanted to see from him. And that's with two defenders draped all over him.
Yeah, I mean, he had two
incredible.
defenders. He just sandwiches between them.
I can't really like. I really wish that would have been a completed pass because that would have been a confidence booster.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was too, but again, the fact that he was able to make that catch, nonetheless, he's got to feel hype about it. He's got to feel good. And the fact that he's building momentum each and every single week, he's building a rapport. We know that he already has a really, really good rapport with Drake Maye. This is a guy that we thought would be a certified dog. And so far, I think he's showing as time ramps up that he is going to be a certified dog. But guys, real quick, share this real quick. Before we get on with today's video, I do want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this video and this channel all football season long over at BetUS. Right now, you guys can go to their website or download their mobile app and use the promo code YouTube150. That is YouTube150, as you guys see right there. Takes less than 60 seconds to sign up. It'll ask for a promo code. You use that, and you will get a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed up by a 125% sign-up bonus on your next two deposits, all the way up to $2,000. That is a deal on your first three deposits, all the way up to $2,000. BetUS has the fastest payouts in the industry. They can give you a 200% crypto deposit bonus, fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, best betting variety in the business. You can even get a 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year, and BetUS can give you your very own personalized account manager. Remember that supporting the sponsors that support the channel directly support me here at Patriots Global. So make sure you guys go ahead, check out BetUS. Make sure you play smart. You play responsible. If you or somebody you know or somebody you love is dealing with an issue, please reach out, of course, and get the help you need. In fact, on BetUS's website, they have a section dedicated to getting the help if you or somebody you know has a gambling issue. So make sure you guys go ahead, have some fun, but most importantly, stay safe. But now is the time, Rob, where I think we need to get into how the Patriots offensive line performed in this game. So I'm going to kick this one off to you real quick and just kind of see what your original thoughts were with this O-line before we start talking statistics.
I will say it looked improved. Although DeMontre Jacobs, 2023 undrafted player, and I really couldn't expect him to be much especially against a Nick Bosa. But being that Bosa only got did he get 1 sack all game? I thought our offensive line did pretty good. There was moments where Jacoby Brissett had time. He had time to air the ball out there. He just held it a little bit too long, or he threw it to Fred Warner. It's an improvement. I'm not saying that this offensive line played great, but it's an improvement. However, I will say this. Mr. Fumble the Football, Leverett, didn't fumble the football. He looked pretty good at center. So we know at least we have a decent backup center. So that's something that once David Andrews went out, I was like, oh my God, I'll hold my breath. This is really bad. He looked pretty solid. I'll give him that. So there are little things there that I'm trying to like hold my hat on and just be positive about. It looked better. It looked better, 10 times better than last week.
So these stats are from my boy Tom. Now, Tom gave us the stats about the offensive line last week, as Rob, I'm sure you remember. And I'll be curious to see what the overall pass rush rate was that was allowed by this offensive line. I'll be curious to see what that number ends up being. But per him, according to Next Gen Stats, Demontre Jacobs, your starting left tackle, 39 pass blocking snaps, 10 pressures, 1 sack. Sidy Sow, 39 pass blocking snaps, 7 pressures, half a sack. Let's keep in mind he hasn't played football in a few weeks. He's still coming back. Not a great performance.
Still pretty good though.
Yeah, I mean he's still coming back. He's still coming back. Not to mention the fact that again, this is a very hard defensive line to go up against with the San Francisco 49ers. I know that they didn't have Hargrave in this game, but still they have dogs on that line. Now, Zachary Thomas also got some reps here at guard. That was another waiver wire pickup that they got a few weeks ago. He just had 1 pass blocking snap. That was all, and nothing happened. David Andrews, before he went out, 4 pass blocking snaps, 1 pressure. Nick Leverett, when he took over, 35 pass blocking snaps, 6 pressures, 1 sack. Layden Robinson, Rob, if they don't take Layden Robinson out when Michael Jordan gets healthy, I'm going to send a letter. I need you to sign it, and I need everybody else to sign it. Bro signed my helmet, so, like, I'm not trying to hate. Bro signed my helmet. Great dude, but bro has been playing like booty, especially in the passing game, for weeks. Layden Robinson, the rookie right guard in this game, 39 pass blocking snaps, 9 pressures, and 2.5 sacks allowed. If they are going to get better with this O-line, it starts by taking out Layden Robinson. Of course, you need guys that are going to be able to do that. That starts with getting healthy, but once you do, you have to take him out. I don't care about his development at this point. You need to get better. And here's what I'll say too is, it is hard. It is very hard for a quarterback to bounce around pressure and still make a play when you get pressure in the middle. Because if you get pressure from the outside, from the edge rushers going up against your tackles, you can step up into the pocket and still make a throw. When you're getting pressure constantly in the middle, you can't step up inside of the pocket. So for me, it starts with improving at the interior of the offensive line, because I think there's things that you can do that will improve you there. And if you can do that, then I think maybe we see a little bit more from the passing game. That, or put Michael Onwenu back at guard, Sidy Sow at left guard, Low at left tackle, and Caden Wallace at right tackle when he gets healthy. Tackle's not going to be good, but you chip block, you put an extra tight end, you put in an extra offensive lineman for a jumbo offensive line package. And then, yes, there's going to be pressure there, but you just say Jacoby Brissett, Drake Maye, step up in the pocket when you see it coming, and that'll give you an extra second or two. Because right now, the interior of the offensive line is looking just as bad as the tackles. And when that's happening, you literally have nowhere that you can go with the football. I'd rather get that. Rob, I'd rather get a lot of pressure from the outside and have no pressure on the inside than to get some pressure on the inside and some pressure at tackle.
I will say, though, there were a couple plays, I don't know how many off the top of my head, where Jacoby Brissett kind of made pressure that wasn't there. So, like when I think he stepped up and he fumbled the football. That was one of the plays where I didn't think he necessarily had to step up into the pocket. Like there wasn't really that much pressure and fumbled the football. And there was other plays that I really just still overall, like not a great day for the offensive line.
Yeah, Michael Onwenu, not great, not terrible.
He's still playing out of position, man.
Not 39 pass blocking snaps, 7 pressures allowed. So I believe he was going up against Bosa for the most period of time there also. So I'm not too worried about it. Michael Onwenu still probably playing as your best offensive lineman with Michael Jordan out. But guys, please make sure you leave a big like on the stream. Really, 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 really helps us out. But overall, for the Patriots offensive line here, they gave up 40 overall pressures and 5 sacks. So, you know, I think that there were times Jacoby Brissett was able to dodge that pressure. We need to give him that credit. The sacks could have been a lot worse. But I do also believe that there were times that Jacoby Brissett didn't necessarily help them either. So, you know, it's kind of give and take. But Rob, let's go ahead and let's move on to, let's just talk about the tight ends real quick. Let's just talk about them real quick. What did you think about Austin Hooper in this game? Hunter Henry, not really much to say. We kind of talked about them when we talked about these pass catchers, but I mean, Hunter Henry, he's showing up a little bit here and there when it matters most. Austin Hooper, he's showing up definitely when it matters most, not having big games per se, but he put up a touchdown today. It was the lone touchdown that the Patriots put up, and it just seems like in every key moment, whether it's a third down or a got to have it touchdown, Austin Hooper is the guy that's showing up.
I think what it is, and that's what we should be doing, is that's our safety blanket. It's our tight ends. Because anytime you need to get some kind of conversion, I mean, there was one game, I can't remember, it might have been the second game of the season against the Seahawks. Hunter Henry had like 6 first downs in the first half. So, and Austin Hooper, I mean, he had one of his touchdowns called back. It might have been the same game. So our tight ends are solid. I think people want our look, man. If our wide receivers, I know they're getting open, but if Jacoby Brissett, if he's comfortable throwing to the tight ends, throw it to them more. I don't care. I just want to have progression on the offense, and it seems anytime we throw anywhere in the vicinity of our tight ends, they do something.
I mean, look, here's what I'll say also. If you think about it, week 1, you win, and Austin Hooper is your leading receiver. Week 2, you really should have won against the Seahawks. Hunter Henry is your leading receiver. The last 2 weeks, that hasn't been the case. So maybe it's just a lack of getting these tight ends involved, and that's something that they need to start considering if they want to start winning games again. But I don't really have too much more to say about these tight ends. Let's hop on over to the defense before we bring on our Patreon members and call it for today. Rob, what do you think about this front seven today, or this pass rush for the Patriots today?
Keon White was getting pressure. Dietrich Wise had a sack, and he was getting. They had him. My biggest thing is this: they let Brock Purdy break contain too many times where he had to use his feet, and when he used his feet, I mean, the first drive alone, he converted two crucial third downs, and although they settled for a field goal, like this guy. We have this week after week after week. Every time we let them break contain, and these are pocket passers. I don't think Brock Purdy's really that. He's decently mobile, but I don't think he's going to be like Lamar Jackson. And we're letting these quarterbacks break contain and a little too much. And what happens is when these quarterbacks break contain on this team, we suffer significantly because of it.
I thought that the front wasn't bad, by any stretch of the imagination. I thought Dietrich Wise had his best game of the season so far. I want to continue to see them play him. 6 total tackles, 2 of which were solo, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, and a pass defended. Overall, I know the running game gave up over 100 yards, but they definitely had some good moments. Missed tackling wasn't as big of an issue as it was last week. Definitely still some issues, but definitely not nearly what it was when we had 13 missed tackles for 100 total yards against the Jets. But you had Dietrich Wise with a tackle for loss. You had Jelani Tavai with a tackle for loss. You had Keon White with a tackle for loss. And, Keon White, quietly a good game. Yet again, 3 total tackles, 1 of which was solo. Again, that tackle for loss. And he had 7 quarterback pressures today with a run stuff. So again, it's not going to show up necessarily when people are talking about, oh, did he have a sack or not? But he is still getting pressure. I think people are just starting to give him, opposing teams are starting to give him a little bit more looks and understand that, okay, they don't have Judon, but they're still a good pass rush.
They're giving him respect.
They're giving him respect. They're double teaming him. They're starting to say, when they're previewing these games and they're trying to figure out how they can be dominant and beat the Patriots, it's okay. Well, first we need to negate this guy, and that guy is definitely Keon White. But I know that you have some thoughts about the Patriots secondary and where they're currently at, so I'll let you go off on that one.
I'm sorry, that cut out.
My bad. You hear me now?
Yes.
So I know you have some thoughts about this Patriots secondary. Why don't you go off on that?
How many times did you see like a 40-yard pass? What was it? The second quarter? No, it wasn't the second quarter. It was the third quarter. We had scored a touchdown in the very next drive. The first play, they get a 55-yard pass to Deebo Samuel. Then it was a 25-yard run. Not the next drive, but the drive after yard by Jordan Mason. Then there was a pass later on in the game to Jennings for like 50. There were several passes of over 40 yards that we just can't that it just can't happen. Jennings is a freak of nature. He's a freak of nature, and I love Marcus Jones, but that is just That's just, it's not a good matchup. We called up Isaiah Bolden. I don't understand like why we wouldn't like have him starting this game. I would have liked him because he's a more physical corner. He's a big body corner that probably would have been able to match up against a Jennings better.
Honestly, I didn't even think about that. I totally forgot that we had promoted him up in this
Yeah,
game.
we
Actually,
promoted
we signed
him
him to the
today, I
53.
believe.
Signed him to the 53 because Alex Austin's on IR, and then he ended up getting signed then to the Patriots 53. So yeah, that's a great point. That's what I was thinking even before the game started, and I was previewing this, and I was like, maybe that's a guy that could be
It makes sense because Jennings is what, 6'4". He's a big body receiver. He's going to use his body to box you out, and he's really going to go up there and get that football. We seen him last week literally moss someone in the Rams game. This guy is just a he's going to go over the top on you. And no offense to Marcus Jones, but he's just not going to be able to contain a guy like that. He's going to be able to contain a guy that's a little bit more like a shorty slot guy. I wish we would have put Isaiah Bolden on the starting roster for the day.
Yeah, overall, it wasn't too bad. Like, I thought the secondary, for the most part, had some really good moments considering what they're going up against. You got Mason, who's one of the best running backs in the NFL. He's leading the NFL in rushing yards. Say it's on him, say it's on the offensive line. I think even to be as dominant as he has to be a good enough running back. And even without Christian McCaffrey, they're getting it done there. You had George Kittle back in here, who's my favorite tight end since Rob Gronkowski. He gets a lot of love, but I don't think he gets enough love for overall what he does and the type of person he is. Very hard to go up against. You got Debo back in this game, who's maybe a top, what would you say, top 30? I would say top 20, maybe wide receiver when he's healthy.
I think he's top 20. My biggest thing with him is just his injuries. He just can't stay healthy, but when he's healthy, he's dynamic.
And then you have Ayuk, who's definitely a top 10 wide receiver. So this is one, if not the hardest matchup that the secondary was going to have to go up against, and it could have been a lot worse. You got to keep in mind Kyle Duggar also came out of the game. You lost Juwan Bentley in week 2 for the season, so you're losing both of your captains now. And let's keep in mind, Kyle Duggar also got promoted to being a captain. He got that green dot on the back of his helmet because of Juwan Bentley leaving for the season, and then he goes out too. So that has to get pushed to either Jabril Peppers or Jelani Tavai, which obviously they gave it to Kyle Duggar for a reason. And I think that's why there was some miscommunications. There was a lot of big plays that were allowed today because you have all of your key players defensively going out with injuries. And those also just so happen to be your captains and the guys that are communicating with the sideline that are supposed to get your defense rallied together and getting them lined up the way that they're supposed to for the play to be successful. So I think that's also part of the reason. But Brock Purdy, 15 for 27, 288 yards. Not great. The secondary has to be better for sure. But with that supporting cast, I'm surprised that they didn't allow him to peak 300. I thought this was a game where that could happen. Obviously, the touchdown, the interception, the Patriots sacked him one time. And Juwan Jennings, I mean, for the second straight game, even with the supporting cast back, he leads the 49ers in receiving yards. This was a guy that I wanted the Patriots to target in free agency for this exact reason. 6 targets, 3 receptions, 88 yards, 29.3 yards on average. Whether it was against Marcus Jones or not, like he was just cutting it up in this game when it mattered the most. Long catch of 45 yards. And I thought Marcus Jones actually did a really good job. I'm not going to get on Marcus Jones for this. He had really good coverage. He made really good plays, but
I don't know how you guard that any better. The Jennings is a freak of nature. How do the 49ers keep doing this? And God forbid, if Ricky Pearsall turns out, that's going to, oh my God.
Yeah, it's a scary thought. But think about it like this too, right? Why would you put a 5'8", 5'10"? I believe Marcus Jones is actually 5'8".
It's because, okay, so coming out of the draft, Marcus Jones has the ability to leap out of the building. The problem is, and we've seen in games where he was lined up against Devontae Adams, like when we played the Raiders, but it's not consistent. That's the problem. He's not going to be able to do it consistently against big body receivers. He can go and jump with the best guys, but it's just not going to be consistent enough. That's why I said, like, why don't we activated him to the active roster, Isaiah Bolden. I just don't know why we didn't just make him start today. Like Belichick would always do it. He would just mix and match the roster. Just because someone's a starter this week doesn't mean, just play him, I don't know, in the slot or something else. because Jennings is just a freak of nature. You can't put Gonzo on everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought this was going to be a big Juwan Jennings game, so that part didn't surprise me. Why did I think that? Well, I thought that he was going to go up against one of these smaller cornerbacks. Rob, it's really like it was last week. If you think about it, against the Jets, Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones, they had really good coverage, but guys like Mike Williams were making plays on them because of the height. Juwan Jennings is 6'3", going up against a 5'8" cornerback. Marcus Jones, really great coverage, but sooner or later, that is going to kill him. Like, that is going to bite him in the butt. And that's exactly what happened here. And that's why, again, you have somebody like Isaiah Bolden who has a little bit more height and size to him. Why not put him up against Juwan Jennings? And I'm assuming that their thought process is, while I like Bolden, he just doesn't have the coverage ability to be able to keep up with Jennings.
Not only that, well, I wouldn't say he wouldn't be able to keep up.
That's just my guess. We haven't really seen anything from Bolden.
Well, you're talking about a guy that I think it was I can't remember the divisions. He holds a record in punt returns. I think it's average punt returns. So he's got to have a little bit of speed. I think the biggest thing is he's not only just a big body corner, but he's also very physical. So I think that just having that element would have maybe – I'm not saying you're going to stop Jennings, because one thing about football is if you give someone a little bit of confidence, they're going to perform. And Jennings is now starting to turn into a freaking stud. But I just think if we would have put Isaiah Bolden on him, maybe we would have made a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, look, we haven't really seen – what the heck was that? We haven't really seen him be able to cover – like at least in the NFL level, definitely in the regular season, stalled in the preseason, but just not the regular season. So it's one thing to have the speed, but then it's another thing to be able to keep up with the routes and the route tree. And maybe they just didn't feel confident in that, which is why they went with Jones. But again, overall, didn't surprise me that Jennings absolutely killed the Patriots today. Like we said, Mason, 24 attempts, 123 total yards. He averaged 5.1 yards on average with a lawn of 25. To me, the Patriots' issue defensively the last 2 weeks has been their inability to make opposing offenses one-dimensional to where they can focus on one thing. Even with the Jets, they were able to dink and dunk all over the Patriots. They're able to run the ball effectively. They're able to pass the ball effectively. And that kind of limits what you can do defensively and start to confuse your guys a little bit. It's a lot easier to perform against a defense when you're multi-dimensional and you have to kind of keep them guessing on what you're going to do, because if you know the plays that they're going to run, they're going to pass on you or run on you, how you're able to dominate that play and take advantage of it is significantly changed. But even Deebo Samuel got some attempts, 2 attempts on the ground, 14 total yards. Brock Purdy ran 5 times for 11 yards. That's only 2.2 yards on average. I think they actually were improved in terms of containing the quarterback than they were last week against Aaron Rodgers. So is it where it needs to be yet? No, but it's at least an improvement in something where we're like, okay, we're heading in the right direction. Deebo Samuel had a pretty good game in his first game back. 5 targets, 3 receptions, 58 yards, 19.3 yards on average, long catch of 53 yards. Brandon Ayuk, for the most part, shut down here. 5 targets, 2 receptions, 48 yards, 24 yards on average, long catch of 38. George Kittle, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 45 yards, 11.3 yards on average, and a touchdown, which...
that touchdown was insane.
Sandwiched between 3 Patriots defenders working against the sidelines, and this dude just makes an insane grab. I mean,
that was just a big boy move, man.
I don't put that on the Patriots. That's just a great play by a great football player.
And funny thing is, I think his Marcus Jones had his hand on Kittle's arm to try to push it out, but like that's just a big boy, man. It was Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, and I forget who the other guy was, but that was just that's going to be on SportsCenter's top 10. That's incredible.
Might have been on Marco Wilson. Might have been on Marco Wilson was the other defender there, but nonetheless, I mean, the problem with the Patriots wasn't necessarily that, again, like against the Jets, they were getting dinked and dunked all game long, and that's why they were losing that game, because they couldn't stop anything. The Patriots had forced the 49ers to punt at times. They'd forced them to field goals and not getting into the end zone. They didn't do bad, but it was just the splash plays at the worst times that gave the 49ers opportunities to continuously move the ball downfield and put points up on the board.
I mean, hell, they really gave us so many opportunities on that same drive. They scored 3 touchdowns on that one drive. Just Kittle happened to finish it off. I mean, you had Kyle Juszczyk. I cannot say that.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Juszczyk. and then I forget who the other one. It might have been Debo, but like they scored. No, it was Jordan Mason because Kittle held, which
Yeah,
I
I
don't
remember
think
that.
he
They
had.
got called back 2 times.
So I mean, like
Yeah, look,
we had
nonetheless,
every opportunity, man. We had every opportunity to get off the field on that drive, at least hold them to a field goal, and then we
and
got
look,
dunked on.
nonetheless, you're never going to win games when these are your top receiving stats. Juwan Jennings, he averaged 29.3 yards on average, long catch of 45. Debo Samuel had 19.3 yards on average, long catch of 53. Brandon Ayuk, 24 yards on average, 38 yards was his longest catch. George Kittle was averaging 11.3 yards on average, with his long catch being 15. Jordan Mason, in terms of the receiving game, 18.5 yards on average, long catch of 24. Kyle Juszczyk, 12 yards on average, long catch of 12 yards. And then obviously in the rushing attack, Jordan Mason was averaging 5.1 yards on average with the longest run of 25 yards. When all of those guys per player averaging a splash play, like, yeah, you're not going to win that game. It's not rocket science.
The fact that it was as close as it was is
crazy.
It's pretty crazy. But
last thing I want to talk about before we bring on these Patreon members here is going to be the special teams. I mean, if there's one thing that is really improved for the Patriots, man, it is the special teams. I mean, the dynamic duo of Joey Sly and Brendan Schooler has to be the best in the NFL.
Bro.
Has to be the best in the NFL. A 62 or 63?
63-yard, which is a freaking record for the Patriots all time. Unbelievable.
Oh, I didn't know that was a record.
And then he drilled a 54-yarder. So I was like, okay, maybe it might have been a fluke. No, then he goes and follows it up with a 54-yarder. He's got a leg, man.
Not only do the Patriots have consistency with him, he's been perfect on his kicks when the offensive line actually blocks for him. He only has one missed kick, and that's because, again, it was blocked by the Seahawks in week 2, and that was because of Austin Hooper. He's been perfect, and not just consistent, but he's also now kicking from outside of the 40, outside of the 45. When they got rid of Nick Folk, it was, well, Nick Folk isn't going to, attempt a kick from 50-plus yards out. He's money from 40 to 45. You go with Chad Ryland because although he's a little less consistent, he had the bigger leg. Now you have Joey Sly, who is very consistent, but he can also hit from 50, 60 yards. I understand that the Patriots need a lot more than just hitting on special teams, but it's at least a step in the right direction, because how many games would the Patriots have won last year if they just had a kicker who could have done this?
I will say this, man. I'm really impressed with how Jeremy Springer has developed his special teams. Like, I really just overall, like, that is really the only thing we could really hang our hat so far on this season, is that our special teams is, like, got to be at top of the league.
It was the best special teams throughout the preseason, and they're keeping that up. They're definitely keeping it, because look at it. Bryce Behringer's playing all-pro. Joey Sly is one of the best kickers in the NFL right now in terms of consistency, and when he's given the opportunity, he's making them. And then you have Brendan Schooler making the plays and downing the ball where he is every single time that they force a punt. Like, he's got to be the best core special teamer in the NFL at this point. Like, this unit went from being the last couple of years one, if not the worst special teams unit in the NFL, to now being arguably top 3, top 5 at worst.
Jeremy Springer, man. And coming here, what was the Rams special teams last year? They was literally dead last. So I really didn't understand. I didn't understand the hiring, but he was assistant coach, so maybe he wasn't a part of the problem. He came here and he's done his thing. I was wrong.
Hey, man, they made the right call. Moving on from
100%. They were right on that.
But let's go ahead and let's bring on these Patreon members before we call it a day. DTN, buddy, let's start with you. How you feeling?
It was overall great, even though I didn't expect the Patriots to beat the 49ers. It was actually a great day just to see the Jets getting so cocky after the loss to the Broncos. Like, no one expected the Jets to crap out against the Broncos. But back to the Patriots game, I would say the Patriots game, it did get a little better after the crap down against the Jets. But, man, Stevenson, I'm starting to think he's becoming more like a liability week after week after week after week with fumbles. Man, that's going to be a problem, because Antonio Gibson gave us a lot of promise, but then again, Why isn't Stevenson securing the ball a lot more than usually? Because he has to be more consistent, because consistent with like securing the ball and all of that. And we can't even make mistakes like that. It just kills the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson has to be better at the end of the day, and it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. Like we said earlier, like I don't think that they can afford to like just take him out completely, but I don't think that he can be the bell cow. I think the best thing that you can do to help your team, not help your team, but at least still have a dominant team as much as you can, because he's your best overall offensive player and the guy that's producing for you consistently. The best thing you can do is demote him to running back 2 and say, if you want to be the bell cow again, you need to prove that you deserve it.
Yeah, I agree. Also, Stevenson has been in the league for 4 years. He should know by now that ball security is so important, because you do not want to revert back to 2021. Or I don't know how good he was when he was in Oklahoma back in 2020, but I think that if Stevenson continues to improve in practice, then we should see some hope. But then again, after that game, I just don't know. Just put Antonio Gibbs as running back 1 for now
My
until
my
we
biggest thing,
minimize.
man. My biggest thing, man, is that like when he goes to fall to the ground or when he gets contact to him, he never goes and secures it with his other hand. I think he needs to get that. That's something he needs to work on. And I think whenever I don't know how many times have you seen Colby where when he's going down, he kind of lets the ground kind of stop the football. And it's like, bro, you gotta go down with it with 2 hands, because players know now that you're gonna fumble, so they're gonna do everything out of their power to try to punch it out of your hands every time now, or at least more frequently, because of your like 4 times in a row, man. This sucks. I'm happy it's happening now instead of when we're like maybe competitive, but nonetheless, it doesn't lessen the fact that he needs to clean it up.
Yeah. Also, moving on to the quarterback, I'm seeing a lot of comments saying that, oh, just put Drake Maye in after that one interception from Jacoby Brissett or after his horrific performance. Man, with that O line, no, 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 no. Don't do what Carolina did when they put Bryce Young in and then they just murder him and now he's benched for Andy Dalton. Don't do that to Drake Maye. He's like 21 years old coming out of college. The last thing I want to see is for Drake Maye to be in a pack of wolves ready to devour him, and it just breaks his confidence, just like how Mac Jones got into the pack when they released Cam Newton. Like, I know Brian Hoyer was like the backup
I
quarterback
will.
for Mac Jones at one point, but
I will say I don't think that this kid's confidence will be like he at UNC. He had one of the worst offensive lines in football, and also like literally only throwing to what Tez Walker 1 year, Josh Downs another year, and yet they had the 7th ranked offense, and he had basically his offensive line coach was replaced 2 years in a row for his 2 years as a starter. I don't think if he came in right now he would be his confidence would get shaken. I think what the one thing that we need to be wary of is not so much his confidence, it's his ability, and not his ability as a quarterback, but basically what they have built upon this kid, all these little things. Like I don't want to change him to go back to what he did at UNC and all those mechanics and stuff like that. That's my biggest fear. It's not I have no fear when it comes to this what he has in between his ears. I have a fear with what he has developed so far at being an NFL quarterback. That's my biggest fear. I have no fear that he's going to be able to handle adversity with I mean he did it. He could have there's been plenty of moments when he was at UNC where he could have blamed everybody else, but he took it upon himself, even though his offensive line was literal shit.
yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. That just shows signs of how much leadership is super important as a quarterback, because it reminds me of that one game, that Patriots Jets game back in 2022. I believe it was like coming out of our bye, where we beat the Jets. Zach Wilson didn't take accountability for his mishaps, but then again, Drake May showed leadership, being accountable for what he did. And I gotta say, the O-line, man, yeah, it did improve, but then again, it's like another week, another combo. I don't know if I should be worried about not having a consistent O-line, and it's time for me to rethink about that 2024 NFL draft when we drafted Wallace and Leighton Robinson. Yeah, tackle is important, but if we had better options, such as at left tackle, then we would have had a rookie at left tackle. Then we would have either City So or I don't know, Cole Strange at left guard, then have David Andrews, and then have one person on right guard, and then at least have Michael Wenu at right tackle. But with this situation, I would say that once Vidarian Lowe comes healthy, I would say Vidarian Lowe, Cole Strange if he's healthy, or maybe City So, then David Andrews, possibly once he's get healthy by next week, and then put Michael Wenu back at right guard, and then give Caden Wallace reps at right tackle, because I do not want to see Leighton Robinson at right guard again. He's been so inconsistent.
Yeah, he hasn't been good. He hasn't been good, that's for sure. But DTM, buddy, we appreciate you for coming on. We hope to see you next week when we play the Dolphins at home, and who knows, maybe we even get the win in another in-division game. So it's going to be a good one. A lot of smack talking on that one.
I'll actually see you on Wednesday, Kobe, because
I
got a lot of words for Richie, man. And then I got more words for TD when we play against him.
Yes, sir, buddy. I can't wait. I'll see you Wednesday, okay?
You too.
I will say this. See you later, DTN. I will say this. I do kind of share the same sentiment that DTN. I just wish we would have drafted a left tackle. And I get it. People want to say, well, this left tackle is not performing that well over here. That's apples to oranges. Who knows if a player would have performed well over here? There's no, because Kingsley Sumatea is not performing well with the Chiefs, he wouldn't perform well here. You cannot say that. Players, there's so many underlying factors that could have gone into that it doesn't matter because someone's not performing over there that they wouldn't perform over here. I just would like to not have the excuse of saying that we didn't draft, at least try to draft a left tackle, not draft a right tackle that basically we think he can play left tackle. That's really just where my anger comes from with that.
Yeah, man, I got you. King Jamie comes in and he says, "What's up, Colby? I wanted you guys to win so bad. The 49ers need to be put back in their place by the AFC. You guys supposed to be my spoiler team. Cheers, boys. Keep the faith." Hey, man, we're gonna be keeping faith all year. Keeping faith all year. Year one of a rebuild. We doing
cannot do anything differently, because if we start being negative, it's just gonna be a rut.
Yeah, you might see us start to cry. I'm just saying, you might see us start to cry a little bit. But let's bring on our last member here. If it lets me. For some reason, it is not letting me add you, Red Sox. They will need to connect the mic or cam before you can add them to the stream. So I don't know what that's about. But real quick, let's get into... Oh, do we have him back? There we go. There we go, Red Sox. How you doing, buddy?
Good, you?
I'm good, man. What did you think of this game?
I mean, it it is what it is. Just too many injuries. Mondre fumbling, turnovers. I mean, sloppy, but I mean, it's to be expected from a team that doesn't really have an offensive line and is just beat up everywhere else.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out their identity too. I mean, this is only week 4. Things can get better. Let's keep in mind that Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, they weren't the Detroit Lions. They didn't start to get things going for about a season and a half. Year one of Dan Campbell, they only won 3 games. And then the first half of their second season, they were playing the exact same way. So these types of things take time. It takes time to build a culture, and they're still flushing out. They're still flushing out players that are in the Belichick system and trying to figure out who works in theirs and who doesn't. That's why it takes time. It's not going to take 4 weeks of year one.
No, they said it was going to be a multi-year rebuild when he took over, and it's just I'm not upset about it, but it is it is what it is. Like this team is going to be halfway decent 50% of the time, and then the other 50% of the time they're going to be bad, and tacking on the injuries. Like their entire offensive line is injured. I don't think their entire offensive line has played a game this season.
Nope. This is the
Like
fourth week with the new O-line combo.
Yeah. So it's like that's it. It's just what it is at this point. Like, you can hope that everybody is healthy and your young players develop. That's what this year is supposed to be. I've seen people say, "Oh, they should just go out and sign these guys." It's like, yeah, but like you're just wasting money at that point. Like you're just oh, let's go get David Bakhtiari, and it's like, okay, yeah, that would be a thing if they were contending.
My biggest thing with Bakhtiari is the guy's played 15 games in 3 years. He played one game 3 years ago. He played 13 games in the next year, and then the year after that, he played one game. But like my biggest thing is this, man. We people are equating this rebuild, and they're saying that this has been a 6-year rebuild. No, and I'll keep on lamenting to it. Like
No.
we have to treat this rebuild like it's year one, because it's not. It's a whole new front office, whole new pretty much whole new coaching staff. And,
I agree.
We just gotta exercise patience. It sucks. Believe me, Patriots fans, I would like to be beating my chest and puffing my chest out there about wins like Chiefs fans are right now. But like we're not in that position right now. We need to really just be patient. Don't put too much pressure on this regime to be successful immediately. Like Colby said, we want to be successful for 15 years, not 10 weeks.
Yeah, look, the only thing you can hope for this season is that there's a competitive look to them. And today it looked like they played competitively.
I mean, for whatever it's worth, man, the roster is just like I'm not saying I don't think the defense is. I mean, you could probably get another corner and maybe get another pass rusher, but the defense is still pretty solid for what it is. I mean, you address the offensive line, you get like a wide receiver one in free agency, and maybe we might play spoilers next year. Like even next year, what it is just you want to see progression. You don't want to see.
Yeah, I've always said I've always said if you can play competitively and there's competition, like it for a while there, it didn't seem like they were completely out of it. It may have looked like that, man. But like, hey, if like let's say that their offensive line, they had their starting offensive line. Let's say they had the right tackle, whoever it is on that side. Let's say they had Cole Strange and David Andrews and Sidney Sow, and then they had Michael Onwenu at left tackle. They have their starting O-line. Does it look that bad?
I mean, brother,
for Jacoby Brissett? No, probably not.
I mean, like this.
Looking at some better protection for him.
I mean, like think of it like this: we fumbled one drive with Ramondre Stevenson. That was 3 points. Then we threw a pick six. That's a 10-point swing. How many points did they get at the end of the game? They scored 30. It really should have been 20. So, I mean, like we shot ourselves. This is like we said, this game's a game of inches, and we don't have the margin of error of the Patriots of old. So we can't put ourselves in a 13-point hole 30 seconds into the game, pretty much.
This is
not a literal 30 seconds.
This isn't a play from behind team. This is a play with a lead team. They can play with a lead. Playing from behind really doesn't fit them. And
no, sir.
Like I said, like if they go out and they get some pieces, they will be better next year. Hope if Drake May or any of the quarterbacks that they want work out. And I mean, like right now, it seems like a lot of these 2018 quarterbacks are starting to be really good for some reason. Like Baker Mayfield in Tampa, Sam Darnold with the Vikings, the I'm seeing ghosts guy. He's 4-0. I mean,
yeah, man, just has to be in the
like-
right situation, right?
like,
Hey,
dude,
they're
like,
bad quarterbacks though, right? Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. Maybe it's just the Jets.
It is
it,
just a
the,
those players.
maybe it was just Adam Gase. That guy was
That too, maybe. That too.
But
But,
Red Sox, buddy, we appreciate you
yeah.
so much for coming on in, buddy. Hopefully, we'll see you next
but brother.
Sunday when we
Yeah.
hopefully beat the Miami Dolphins at home.
Nah,
Maybe.
guaranteeing a victory. Fuck.
Guaranteeing it. Knock on wood or manifest it, whatever we got to
Please,
do.
please.
I mean, there is
Sunday.
no who's
Oh.
the quarterback for the Dolphins?
Tyler Huntley or
Tyler
Skylar Thompson, one of the
Huntley.
two.
Yeah, all right. Well, they beat Skylar Thompson like 2 years in a row every single time. Everybody likes to say Tua turned the ball over. Oh, he's undefeated against New England. It's like, yeah, dude, but he only plays one game a season against New England. Like the other game, he's injured every time.
Hopefully this is the game we do it then. But buddy, I appreciate
man,
you for
at
coming
the
on.
end of the
buddy.
Playing, so probably.
At the end of the day, man, I'm not on board with the whole tanking. Like we tanked for a quarterback pretty much. I'm not. I don't like tanking, but I didn't mind us doing it for Drake Maye. Consecutive seasons of it, no. I want to win games. I want to win as many games as we possibly can. If there was a chance between us getting the third pick and a second pick overall, and we win that last game, I'd rather win the damn game because I'm at this point where I want to build some kind of morale with this team.
Yeah, tanking just makes literally no sense at this point for the team. After you get the quarterback and you draft them high.
Yeah, we got the quarterback. It made sense last year. It don't make sense this year.
Yeah. Real quick, though, guys, before we log off, just want to give another massive shout out to BetUS. When you guys sign up using their website or download their mobile app, takes less than 60 seconds. You use the promo code YouTube150. That is YouTube150, as you see on the screen, as the promo code, and you will get an exclusive limited time offer of a 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit, followed up by a 125% sign up bonus on your next 2 deposits, all the way up to $2,000. BetUS can also give you a 200% crypto deposit bonus and can even give you 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year and give you your very own personalized account manager. But guys, that is going to end it for today. I know it was a long day. I know it wasn't one that everybody was excited about. Wasn't one that really anybody thought we were going to win. So I'm sure the excitement level on this one was low, but we'll be back next week against the Dolphins. Should be a really good game back at home.
We're sweeping the
shortly from
table.
Miami.
We're going to win every freaking game from here on out.
That should be a
Come
game
on,
New
guys.
England's in. That should be a game New England's in. We'll be live
let's
next
win.
week for another watch party. I will see you guys later this week for some more Patriots-related
Love y'all.
content. Rob, any last words before we log off?
Be positive. Stop being so damn negative. Like, find some little glimpses of hope in this team and just run with that. It's a rebuild, people. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Love y'all.
And make sure you guys, of course, follow Rob on Instagram. That is dropped right here for the best Patriots and Boston sports-related content, statistics, facts, opinions, live streams out there. So go ahead and check him out over on Instagram. But we appreciate you guys for watching, and we will see you next week. Go Pats.